Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash is the next big anime game to be releasing in 2023. The game is expected to be releasing sometime later this year and will most likely be following a lot of the events from the Season 1 anime. I'm sure we will get DLC updates related to Season 2 that has just kicked off. However, there is a big problem with this game. Well, it could be a big problem, and it's got to do with the game's main aspect mechanic being advertised as a 2v2 fighting game. Now you're probably thinking, but we can just play like in 1v1 scenario. Well, if you actually look on the website, the main aspect and advertising for the game, it's being advertised as a 2v2 3D action anime brawler. So the company behind this game is Viking, the ones who made My Hero 1 Justice games. So the game is in good hands. They know what they're doing. They really progressed from the first game to the second game. So as we can see in the gameplay here, I'm assuming we're going to see similar kind of gameplay aspect in the Jujutsu Kaisen game. Now let's take a look at Demon Slayer, the Hinokami Chronicles. We can see a big 2v2 aspect actually being used in this game. I know it's made by a different company, but we can kind of get a feel of what 2v2 actually feels like. The only main difference here is that the Jujutsu Kaisen game is more like a kind of like an open worldish 3D brawler. And because it's going to be a 2v2 game, the problem with that is that it could be really overwhelming for players when actually versing other online people. Because in my mind here, what I'm thinking is it's not like, you know, you have kind of like a sub character working with you, like we have seen in the My Hero 1 Justice games. You just hit kind of L1, R1. That character comes out and does a move kind of thing. We probably could see that, but in an online aspect 2v2, what I'm actually thinking in my head is that one player picks, you know, for example, Gojo, and another player picks Nanami. You guys are together on a team. You're actually teaming up together to verse another two online people. That sounds quite fun because it sounds kind of like, Smash style game, which is really cool. But the problem with that is that obviously some characters are going to be way overpowered than others. I'm looking at you, Gojo Sensei, are going to be way overpowered than other people, and then other players are probably going to lean towards to always pick that kind of character. And if you're, not so good at the game, you might be getting targeted a lot. Obviously if someone is choosing Gojo is probably already going to be way overpowered when he does release. And you're in a 2v2 game situation. Can you imagine being constantly spammed just because of who you picked as a character? You're going to be targeted the whole game. And the other guy is literally just in the background waiting for some action because the other two players are just taking on the one guy. So it becomes like literally like a 2v1 kind of game. Now, I don't know for certain if that's actually going to happen. I don't know if the game's actually going to split the actual players up. So then it's kind of like a 4v player online kind of game because every single person is actually an online character, which is cool. It sounds cool, but I just don't know if it's going to work. In this gameplay here, we can actually see some scenarios where the game is in that 2v2 aspect, and this is a really good indication on how it's actually going to look like in real gameplay. Now, in this scene in particular here, we can see Gojo getting absolutely hammered here. So obviously we can see the perspective of the Megumi player, but that Yuji player, can we say for certain, is it actually going to be an online person, or does it more look like an assist? I've slowed this scene down in particular because it looks like the Megumi player in this scene is actually an online person. It doesn't really look like an assist. I say this because his movements look more human-like, and he looks like he's already running around in the gameplay world prior to just actually being called out. Like he's already physically there in the match fighting. So if we go off this information here, just from slowing down that clip and really analyzing this gameplay scene here in particular, we get an idea that the game 2v2 is actually going to be real online people and not just like a call out character. The game might actually give you the option to either play with a CPU or to play in a real online 2v2 setting. But just with that said, that is also a problem, because if you are playing in a 2v2 game, and the game is unable to find another player, or there's just matchmaking issues when the game does launch. Nobody wants to play in a 2v2 game where your teammate is actually going to be the CPU. You don't want to have a CPU teammate and take on two real online players. I don't think we've ever had an anime game actually released before that is straight coming out of the gate pushing 2v2. The 2v2 aspect is either going to make or break this game, and if it's not done correctly, it's going to really decrease the game's lifespan in a gameplay mechanical aspect, and also in an online aspect too, because if they're going to be pushing the 2v2, I don't really know how 1v1 will work. We can see in the clips prior to this 2v2 gameplay that there is 1v1 gameplay actually going on. Now, in an online aspect, it's going to push the player base either to play in a 2v2 if it's actually really good, and then it's going to be an online base that for players who want to play in a 1v1. The problem with that is that if there are too many players being pushed to one side, you'll just never find the game. If you're someone who wants to play in a 1v1, but the 2v2 is really good and everyone's playing 2v2, but you might just not be a fan of it. You really just want to play in 1v1. You just might never be able to find the game if everyone is moving all the way to the one side and just playing in 2v2, if that makes any sense at all. So the main game aspect, the 2v2 fighting for Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash, could actually be the game's downfall, but we'll just have to wait and see when the game releases and when we receive more news related to the game. But a good thing that I've actually been thinking about, a positive actually, if the game is pushing 2v2, when it comes to DLC characters, we actually might be able to get like combo packs with two characters actually coming together under the one price. So that's pretty good, because obviously there's a huge cast of characters in Jujutsu Kaisen, and with season 2 being out, we're just going to get more and more characters introduced. If you read the manga, you know there is a huge array of characters in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. There is just a huge amount of characters. I think at release they've actually already announced there's going to be 15 characters, and then obviously there's going to be a whole bunch of DLC characters. So hopefully when DLC do actually release in this game, it's in a pack. You get two characters, or you kind of get like a class of characters for together, because in Jujutsu Kaisen there's a lot of different factions, there's different schools, stuff like that. Maybe like a sensei pack, maybe like this school pack, things like that. If you can get characters together joined in a DLC, that'll be pretty good. It'd be weird for them to release like one character at a time for you to singly purchase when the game's main aspect is 2v2. So give us a pack with two characters. More than two characters will be fantastic. But, that's way far ahead into the future. But guys, this has been my video for Jujutsu Kaisen. Is this either going to make or break the game, the 2v2 player aspect? Please let me know down in the comment section. But guys, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you all real soon.